Welcome, gun runner.
Hello everybody, Q&AK the Laird here, and today I've got a review for you of a load of books, actually 5 in total. I'm going to put them all together into one video because it makes more sense to do it this way. But just to give you a bit of background to the books I'm going to be looking at, they're all Kindle books and they're all produced by a man called Anthony Ventrello, also known as Classic Gamer 74, who is a follower of mine. He is a long-time subscriber. He's also one of my patrons, and really lovely guy. I've chatted to him quite a few times over the years. He also has a channel of his own, Classic Gamer 74 YouTube channel, which I've linked down in the description to this video, along with a link to his books on Amazon. And he's released quite a few different Kindle books now, and he kindly sent me 3 copies of all of them to have a look at and cast my eye over for the channel. So I was happy to do so, and I can only apologise for how long it's taken me to get around to doing this video, because you did send them to me quite a while back, but I've just had such a backlog of book reviews especially to do, as I've mentioned in previous videos, and I'm only just starting to catch up on that backlog now. So apologies it's taken me so long to do these to Anthony, but I'm here. And yes, so he has a series of books, first of all, called A Guide to Edutainment Gaming. And these really caught my eye because there's something so different to all the other books out there. And I would like to see him actually maybe take all of these and put them into one print book, which I think would work really well. Because they're really good, and they're totally unlike any other books out there. They're totally unique. And as the title very much gives away, edutainment games, as they are often called, are those educational games that also try to be video games. So there's lots of these on consoles where they put these kind of, games that are supposed to help you learn. I suppose titles like Mario is Missing are kind of a famous one. There was lots of ones like that on the CDI, like Pecos Bill and Sesame Street games and such like. But on PC, computers and PCs, a lot of games of this type are more common, like Oregon Trail if you're American, or Granny's Garden if you're British, where you thought it was a game, but then it snuck lots of learning things in there to fool you. And that's why they actually let you play them at school. But yeah, he's made a series of books that catalogues these right from the early years, so right from sort of Fairchild Channel off the first console, right through to the CD age and the CDI, which I've just mentioned, and the 3DO, even the PlayStation, etc. So I'm just going to have a quick flick through these because there's lots of these books, and I just want to kind of give you a flavour of what they're about. So if we flick down here, so you can see here he's got a list there of what's in it. So he's even got the Magnavox Odysseys. It goes back even further than Fairchild. I forgot that was in here. Atari 2600. So all of the Atari 2600 games there, really. I think all of them, including prototypes. I can't really see that really missing. Obviously the Sesame Street games are probably the most famous ones for the 2600, but it was also like Math Grand Prix and Fun with Numbers, stuff like that. Then we've also got Intellivision in here, Magnavox Odyssey 2, ColecoVision, bonus chapter there, Fairchild Channel F. I remembered that being in it. So yeah, all those early first generation or second generation, as they're called, consoles. So he's got his intro, tells you all about them, and then obviously he goes through the games. Some of them have got pictures to show them, like there with the screen overlays or screenshots. For example, there's a screenshot of Hangman, tells you all about the game, whether it's actually worth playing, any fun facts or trivia about it, which is interesting. And nice to see Cookie Monster Munch there, and it mentioning there that it's programmed by Gary Stark. What a lot of people don't know is that Gary Stark went on to work for Atari Games, the coin-op company. When Atari split, he stayed with Warner Atari basically and started making games for the coin-op company. But he did Cookie Monster Munch. His next game after that was Star Raiders 2, which is obviously something pretty different. But after that, he did Pit Fighter. So he went from doing Cookie Monster Munch, this game for kids, to Pit Fighter, like one of the most violent arcade games ever released at that time. Very violent game. So quite funny to see the games that Gary Stark made. Lovely guy as well. I've interviewed him, and I chatted to him at length about his career in games. And interestingly, he didn't like gaming. He didn't play any of his games. Didn't play games at all. Very interesting guy. Very strange. But yeah, we'll flick through some more there. Says more 2600 there. Into in television there. Says the Flintstones keyboard fun, which I think was one of the computer add-on games, if I remember rightly. Here's some of the stuff for the Magnavox Odyssey 2. Mathemagic. Matchmaker. So yeah, Nimble Numbers Ned. So lots of these things. Here's some ColecoVision stuff like Dr. Zeus Fix Up the Mix Up. That's probably quite fun actually. It's more of a video game than an educational game, I'd say. Fraction Fever, Jukebox, Linking Logic. So lots in there. So this is what I think this book's about 130 pages or something like that. Oh, more than that. So just it's about 140 pages for that book there. And now we've got his next one, which is a guide to Edutainment Gaming 2. So he obviously outlines in the intro there that he covered, games for that first generation of proper consoles. And then he goes into his contents. Obviously, this one, as I said, is about, as you might guess, but I did mention briefly that this one is about early computer games. So he goes from the earliest console edutainment games to the earliest computer games. So we've got in here, obviously, lots for the Apple II, which is obviously very prominent in America, Commodore 64, MS-DOS, TRS-80. I was quite surprised to see ZX Spectrum and even Amstrad CPC in here, considering this book was written by an American, so that was kind of cool to see in there. Strange to see no Atari 8-bit in there, though, because there was a lot of edutainment stuff for the Atari 8-bit, so I was quite surprised not to see that figure in there somewhere. But yeah, so you can see that starts off with the Apple II stuff like Oregon Trail, obviously one of the most famous. No Granny's Garden for the BBC, though, I'm afraid, to all you Brits. He doesn't cover the BBC Micro in here at all. There's Commodore 64. Romper's Room. C Speller. And then he goes into MS-DOS, so lots of early CGA games, into EGA and VGA. TRS-80, Color Computer. It covers some stuff for that, like Bumble Plot there, and Easy Reader. ZX Spectrum, so he covers a few Spectrum games there. I have to say I don't know any of these ones that he's covered. I did have some of the Sinclair ones that I bought a big bundle of games and they were in there. They're not titles I would have bought. I remember buying a big bundle of games from a charity shop and they were in there. I can't recall what titles. There were some of the ones by Poseidon, I think. Fun School series there. So yeah, so there's more stuff in there. And that one's just under 100 pages for that book. So that's a bit shorter, which is quite surprising when you think about it. The first book being longer because there was a lot more computer edutainment games. So maybe you could expand that one a little bit more. And now we're into book 3. So the 8 and 16-bit years, as it says there. So this is into 8-bit consoles, 16-bit consoles. So obviously NES, SNES, Mega Drive, Sega Pico's in here, which of course was a educational console, as was the VTech Socrates, which this gave me a real giggle when I saw this, because my wife was given a VTech Socrates when she was a kid, and she spent years trying to work out what it was until we finally discovered what it was, and she's still the only person I've ever met who had a VTech Socrates. So that's hilarious, finding out that she had one and she absolutely hated it, thought it was the worst thing on earth because it didn't have any proper games on it. Very funny indeed. But so it was very funny to see it covered that, and I made a point of showing my wife, and she got quite angry because she still has trauma from that VTech Socrates. But it starts off with NES with Donkey Kong Jr. Math, or Maths as we would say in the UK. We put the S on, and rightly so, because it is plural. You don't just do one sum in it, do you? You do multiple. And then we've got Mega Drive there. It's Super Nintendo, this one, isn't it? Rex Ronan. Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego. Mario and Friends. Mario the Early Years. So yeah, then I think it goes into Mega Drive there. or Genesis, as the Americans call it, but that is actually a picture of a Japanese Mega Drive there. Wacky World's Creativity Studio, Art Alive, that's probably the most well-known one, I'd say, for the Mega Drive. Barney's Hide and Seek, Richard Scarry's Busy Town, that came out on all sorts of things. I've got the CDI version of that. Then the Sega Pico. Loads of sort of stuff on that, obviously, because that was all educational stuff. And then there's the Sonic one, Sonic the Hedgehog's Game World, which did actually have some sort of more video gamey bits in it, made it a bit more exciting. And there's the VTech Socrates. That talks all about that there at the end. Good way to finish the book there. So that book is another like 120 odd pages. And then we go into the fourth volume, which is CD game systems. So I mentioned at the start of the video. So we've got 3DO in here, Philips CDI, of course, which is the chief contender when it comes to edutainment. If I think of edutainment games on a console, I think of the Philips CDI first of all. And I've got loads of these. In fact, looking down this list, yeah, I have all but 2 of those, I think. There, and I have most of these as well. Because actually, when I got my CDI, when I bought it, it came with about 200 odd discs, I think, came with it. And a large majority of those were these types of things. So whoever owned it originally obviously bought it for their kids. It had very few actual games with it, my CDI. Tetris is one of the few that came with it. Dark Castle, I seem to remember as well. But there certainly weren't many. And then it's got one for the Sega CD and some titles for the PlayStation 1. Which was interesting because I wasn't really aware that there was any for the PlayStation 1. But I suppose it makes sense considering what a success that console was. So it goes into 3DO, first of all, there we go. Stuff like Twisted the Game Show, which I suppose is quiz shows, I suppose it is educational. Sadnos the People's Party. Fatty Bear's Birthday Surprise, Fatty Bear's Fun Pack. 3DO stuff, CDI stuff like Cartoon Jukebox, which I have, and F-Acer, European Party, I've got that. I've got all these ones, the Mother Goose, and I've got all the nursery rhyme ones, Pecos Bill, I've got that. These Paint School ones, I've got those. I've got Richard Scarry, as I actually already mentioned. These Sticky Bear ones, I've got a load of those. Actually, funny enough, I dated a girl for a while when I was younger. Not long after I got my CDI, actually, and she had a young kid, and she loved playing all those games on my CDI. Absolutely loved them, especially Sesame Street ones. She really enjoyed them, so they obviously were well made. Every time she came over, her daughter was about 4, and whenever she came over, she'd want to play the Sesame Street game straight away. So that one is, yes, it's 75 pages on that one, so it's a bit shorter, but really good. There's obviously tons more CDI games you could have put in there, to be honest, but still pretty comprehensive. And then there's one last book I want to mention, the last one he sent me, the 5th book, which is The History of Gaming. And I like this little description at the beginning, because these are PDF versions he sent me, hence why they don't have the front covers and the copyright messages and stuff. And it says, History of Gaming, according to a middle-aged guy who loves video games and plays with puppets. I liked that, because what I liked about this book was, is you'll see kind of when you look down the content, it's not going in any kind of chronological order. It's not starting at the beginning and, you know, chronicling the history of gaming. This is his personal experience of all those times. So, you know, for example, there he's got Sega Saturn, but then after Sega Saturn, he's got a bit on ET for the 2600. So, you know, it's not chronological. It's more he's remembering things and then putting them in categories like this gaming controversies there, Atari, ColecoVision, edutainment games, which is obviously covered in separate books, Nintendo handhelds, obviously bits and pieces. This is his personal experience, and I really liked that because I really enjoyed reading it, because I love reading about people's personal experiences in gaming rather than all the books that try to chronicle the history of gaming and actually more often than not get it wrong. Or state stuff that at the time of the book was true, which was later found out to be false, making them wrong later on. But there is an awful lot of books out there that just get things totally wrong, but are so badly researched, like, you know, blaming Atari for the crash, or claiming that Atari went bankrupt. They're common ones that you often see, or claiming consoles were failures that weren't really failures. They just didn't do that well. Things like that, or being very Americanized and ignoring the scene in other parts of the world or whatever. This is his personal experiences, and I won't go much further than this because actually this book, it doesn't have any images in it at all. So it's all text, which is a shame. I wish he had put some images in there, because I think it would have been better if he had. And this is a really long book, so I'll go right to the end there. You'll see 331 pages there, and it's got links actually to all these pages and stuff there. So really interesting book. Really enjoyed reading it. And he mentioned some of his other books actually. He's written some novels and stuff as well. So like me, he likes to dabble in other areas of writing as well. But yeah, really enjoyed reading this book. I love reading personal stories, as I say. And it's another book worth getting, but there's no pictures in there. So if you want pictures, you bang out of luck. The only feedback I give you is actually they're really well written. I really enjoyed reading them. They all do something different. They're very original books, as I say. But I wish his formatting was a bit better. There's a lot of gaps between lines, and I wish he'd done the formatting so all the sentences go to the end. They're spaced out, so they're to the borders, spaced to the borders. And some of the pictures inconsistent sizes, not centered. So all I'd say is his books are really, really good. I really enjoyed reading them, but they're very raw, and they do need some formatting. I'd love to see him work with somebody, just to get some formatting put in. In fact, you can do it yourself. I mean, I don't use anyone to do my formatting. I do all of my own. I don't think my own is that amazing. I'm not a graphic designer or anything. But funnily enough, there's 2 other authors now who are using my book templates because they liked them so much, because they're simple and they're easy to use and they're clean, and people seem to like the ones that I've done. So it's funny that, I won't say who they are, but it'd be interesting to see if anyone knows and spots them, that there's a couple of other authors using my exact book templates. I gave them permission to use them. So yeah, that's really cool that there are people doing that. But yeah, that's that really. They're books worth getting. It'd be even nicer if he improves the formatting, as I say. I mean, feel free to reach out to me and I'll tell you how I format mine if you want, Anthony. We can chat about it. But yeah, what matters really is the contents, though, and the contents of these books is actually really, really good, and I really enjoyed reading all of them. And I did make sure I read them before doing these videos, which is another reason why it's taken me so long to get around to doing these videos, because I wanted to make sure I was all over the content and I'd read it and understood it before I did a video of it. But I do highly recommend them, not just saying that because he gave me the books for free, not just saying that because he follows me, etc. I just enjoyed reading them because there's something really different, as you've probably just seen. But I hope you enjoyed this video review of these 5 books by Anthony Ventrello. And I've been the Laird, and I'll see you all again for another one very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.